This week in car audio. Tune in. We'll be talking about bass, talking about chips, talking about rings. You ain't got them, zip your lip. You got a problem you haven't found, check your grounds. The show about to start. Tune in. This week in car audio. Yeah. Tune in. This week in car audio.
Welcome to This Week in Car Audio with your host, the Judge, Doug Stockton, co-hosted by movie sensation, video game entrepreneur. He's the guy. He's all over the place. If you want to see the famous guy, want to go to the red carpet, Mr. Jeffrey Fernandez. How's it going, Jeffrey?
Good. Swell day today. How you doing, Doug?
I'm still alive. If you guys can't see, I'm still sharing to the multiple groups here. We're trying to get this out to as many people as we can. Also, if you guys are watching, please help like and share this with as many people as you can. That will get us out here. I see Moses Alejandre. This is Lord of Bass Manny is what he says. Son. It's his son. It's Lord of Bass Manny's son. He's in there. And our guest this week, for you guys that don't know the figure right there at the bottom middle of your screen, that is Mr. Bobby Gately with Gately Audio. How's it going, Bobby?
It's going good, sir. Just answering a little email while you were doing the introductions here. But it's going good. We're here at the shop. Been at it all day and got the call from you earlier to jump on the show with you guys. So here we are.
That's awesome. Oops, that's my fault. We got Chris Jenner popping in there. Tiffany Paris from Barbados watching a little bit. We got, that's all I see on that one there. And like I said, Tristan from Barbados also on the YouTube side. All right, Bobby, let's start off by just talking a little bit about Autorama. So out of nowhere last week, I get a call from John Buck. He is the promoter for Autorama. He's the guy who runs the whole event. And he says, hey, are you ready to come back to Autorama? And I'm like, hell yeah. For people that don't know, you're going to learn. So you're going to see what this is. So, Bobby, with you and your experience at Autorama, can you tell us a little bit your memories or whatever, your thoughts on the event of Autorama?
Yeah, shoot. When I started sponsoring the event with you in 07, 08, is that right?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, and those first few years we had a nice big turnout, and it was a pretty large scale event. Lots of people out there having a really good time. But then somewhere 11 or 12, it turned into the biggest event anywhere. It was huge, and there'd be freaking 100+ competitors. It was bigger than finals, especially the local ones. The ones back east would be a little larger scale, but man, it was pretty amazing. I remember, police coming out, and there's demo vehicles. That's the first time I saw vehicles that were just kind of demo vehicles. Was at Autorama, and it was, it was a sight to see, like these guys are driving with their trucks with the doors open, and the first time I'd ever seen stunt walls and all this stuff that's, all over the place now. But that, it was like, wow, what the heck are those guys doing? That's wild,
Right.
So, yeah.
Let's see. So 2007 was Audio Express. Yeah. April. Whoa, that was the pizza taste-off. I'm trying to look back here. There we go. Autorama, Audio Express in 2005. But I believe you were like one of my very first. 2004? Nope, that's Tricked Out Speed Show. So you must have been 2008-ish.
Yeah, I think it was 2008, 9, 10, 11. Like it was a bunch of those years.
It was a handful of years consecutively because you actually custom made a handful. There it is. 2008 was your first year doing it.
Okay.
And here I'm going to look up right now. Oh, wow, Bob,
Was
you
it,
got
you
a.
guys talking about sponsoring or
Yeah, he was
competing?
actually
Oh,
sponsoring
sponsor.
it.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And tell us how you ended up getting becoming a sponsor of that event, Bobby.
Shoot, I think it was Tim Brzezinski, and
Yep.
you were hanging out quite a bit. Tim came in and was like, "Hey, you should sponsor this event," and Doug will talk about you and what the services you provide. And at that point, I was just doing installs, a lot of custom installs, but that was my primary function at that point. Where now we manufacture, our own subwoofers and boxes and things of that nature. So this year, I'll happily sponsor the event if you don't already have all those filled up. But and maybe we'll be able to come out and show off some of our products. So it should be really interesting. Maybe we'll drag Tim out to come hang out with us.
That
Yeah,
would
Tim
be.
had your logo on the side of his car. Huge, right? That's what
Yeah,
I
he was
remember
the
about Tim's
only.
car.
Yeah, Tim was the only guy I ever really bothered to sponsor. When Tim started out in car audio competition, he's just some crazy dude that showed up in my shop one day, and he had this little system in his car, and he did a pretty decent job of installing it, and we were chatting about some stuff, and I was familiar with his car, and I had built a box that just happened. I knew it fit his car, and I knew it fit it really good. And it was loaded with subs, and it was sitting on the floor of my shop. And I was like, I know this box fits your car. What amplifier do you have in there? And he had like just the right, some 1200 watt little Class B amp. And I was like, shoot, let's put it in there and see how it does. And we put it in his car, and he's, having fun with it. He's like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. So, had a big plexiglass, a bunch of mirrors and stuff, crazy dubbed subwoofers. There was audio bonds. And, I was like, and he's like, yeah. And he was, and I had told him there's a car audio event tomorrow. You should check. He's like, I'm for sure going to go out there. I'm going to go. And he was all excited. And then I was like, man, you want to buy this box? I'll give you a killer deal on it. He was like, oh, I can't afford it. I'm like, yeah, you can. Today you can. I was like, let's see. I'm like, it's too good. It fits too good. It works too good. Like, I want to help you out. And anyway, Tim went out to a show the next day, and he did really well, and he had a lot of fun. And then there he went, and he was off to the race for years and years and years. Tim was just crazy, and he was worth helping out a lot. There's been a few other people with opportunities that you start helping out, and then all of a sudden they're super ungrateful, and it's like he's like the only guy that had ever really panned out to bother with putting forth some extra effort for. So,
Yeah. I believe he competed for about 10 years. He made it to base race at the World Finals every year, and he was really good at getting second or third.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he won the championship 2 years, but that was on the points thing, right?
Yes, he won. He won points champion. But yeah, so can you tell us just a little bit about the box that you had set up for Timmy? I mean, I know it was plexi, like it was 1 inch thick, single 12, or what was it?
The first one that we did for him, it was 2 12s, and it was pretty much half acrylic and half MDF structure, and the inside was full of mirrors, and the top, front, and port assembly were all one, piece of bonded acrylic, and it was a pretty crazy thing. But then, and then years later, we probably built 16, 20 different boxes for Tim over the years.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes we'd build them and we would try them for less than a day, and then they'd be in the dumpster because, things just don't work sometimes. Sometimes on my design, sometimes on like, this guy designed me this box. It's going to be great. And I'm like, yeah, that looks beautiful. We build it, and it's like, oh, that wasn't good at all. I'm like, did you tell him that was terrible? He's like, yeah, I did. He was like, oh, okay. I'll make note of that, but that's how we learn, I mean, so, but eventually I had built a series of those horn loaded boxes for Tim. You remember all those?
Yes, sir.
I probably built, it was 6 or 7 different iterations of the horn loaded with like curve cut, bent horns or angular horns and a bunch of different stuff to find just the right, combination of angle and expansion and compression on each side, and eventually, when we were really happy with it and he was getting really good performance, we built him an all acrylic version of that,
Right.
and it was really cool. And he had it in there for a long time.
Yep. And so ultimately, because he was a base racer, he wasn't a DV drag guy, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
he did the DV drag as kind of just he was already there, he'd do it. But ultimately, you were looking for a box that had a wide range of response and played smooth across the greater range of sounds. So you were not just trying to be loud, but you were trying to be loud and clean, right? That was
Yeah,
ultimately the goal.
Loud playing music.
Yes.
You know, and me and you have had this conversation before, and I've talked about it a little bit online. When I was in my early 20s, the first time I went to a car audio competition and I saw the vehicles doing burps, I was like, oh,
yeah.
I don't like it. I was like, I loved the effort, and I saw what everybody was doing, and I was like, that's cool. I didn't want to do that at all. Like, you know what I mean? I wasn't like, this is dumb. It was like, this isn't for me. I could see the guys, and I was like, man, I could see some of these builds, and I'm like, this dude worked his ass off on this. That is really cool. And I saw, a guy.
Oh, did he freeze up on you too?
Oh yeah.
Oh, hopefully
You know what I mean, but I didn't want to make a burp vehicle because that wasn't gonna be beautiful, and it wasn't gonna pay me well with my shop. Because I was building custom stuff and making things that looked good and sounded amazing, and like kind of this combination of SQ and loud, and that's what I was aiming for, and I was like, well, that doesn't really fit my thing. And then after Tim was going out to all those shows, he's like, you got to see this, man, the base race. This is really cool. And he's like, it's like bracket drag racing. And I'll race anything. Like, I'll race shopping carts or big wheels or whatever the hell you want. I'll race you. And so I'm like, oh, it's a race. Like that's kind of a cool, it's like, and I saw it where I was like, that looks fun. That's really cool. So that brought me out, and they're playing music. So that was a lot more interesting for me. And that was kind of the roots of where the demo vehicle started coming from, because now you had a vehicle that sounded awesome when it played music. So now everybody'd start getting into others' vehicles. And then we had guys like, Old Man Mike, that passed away a while back. Old Man Mike was crazy, and he was fun as hell. And he's like, I'm going to do a 150 base race. And then it was like, I'm going to do a 160 base race. And it was like, here we go, and that was a hell of a spectacle,
Yep.
So
those two guys would hang out all the time, right?
Yeah.
Tim
What's
and Tim and Old Man Mike used to hang out all the time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
They had a falling out at the end, but
okay.
but prior to that, they were pretty much always together, and that was it. But that also leads me to now, Mr. Gately. There, he went from helping with the base race, then he started seeing the Cyclone stuff, and he was when we started talking about Cyclone, he was like, "Dude, 20 hertz and loud, this is my jam." So he was really into that. And then he started building some purpose-built like Cyclone vehicles. I didn't see a lot of competing with him, but I remember he started with your Harley Davidson truck. That was kind of like the start, and then next thing you know, you're building these full-on like the Green Machine or something. And
the Green Monster is what was my old black Harley truck.
Oh, is it?
Did you know that? Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, I tell people this all the time. They go, "Oh no!" They're like, "What happened to your old Harley truck?" I'm like, "It's the Green Monster now." And they go, "Oh my God, really?" And like, yeah, it's once upon a time it was the Harley truck, and it, when it had just over 200,000 miles on it is when we did the satin black wrap on it. I kind of redid the whole truck and did a bunch of the interior and kind of fixed it up again. I never put a big sound system in it at that point, but I built some custom doors, and it had a couple 15s in it, and it sounded really nice, but it still had a lot of miles, and I wasn't driving it as much. And then when the wrap on it started to kind of after 6 or 8 years or whatever, that wrap started to kind of deteriorate, and it was my, it wasn't my daily anymore, and it wasn't something I drove regularly. I was like, I'm going to turn this thing into a big crazy demo sound truck. And so over a year period of time, I started, I put some, helper springs on the back because I knew it was going to add some weight, and I had the transmission rebuilt because I knew that was going to be a thing, and put some air shocks on it to help that. And I got a camper shell, and it was like kind of step, and then kind of all at once we started building it. So yeah, what my old Harley truck has turned into what is the Green Monster. So yeah.
Okay. With when you started doing that, and then you started, I remember you were helping Ray Pimley. You did those wooden door jams. That was next. The doors. Dude, those doors were awesome. The multi-level of plywood. Then you burnt it and stained it, and oh, dude, talk about those a little bit. Those were freaking phenomenal.
Ray's doors. That was a fun build. Ray and I had talked a few times. I met Ray. He came to a show that we held at my shop. And I chatted with him for a little while, and I was like, shit, I like this kid. He's really cool. He's a good dude. And we were kind of talking about his truck, and his doors were kind of broken, and he had built them. He did a good job, but they were kind of broken, and him and I were talking about how to repair them. And I was like, man, I'd love to build you some doors, and he was like, yeah, maybe we could do something. And, he came back to me a few months later, and he was like, I want you to build me some doors. I don't want a bro deal. I don't want anything. I want to pay you to build me some doors. I don't want to worry about, any time constraints. I don't want to worry about, you losing any money. I think it's best if I just pay. And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. And, so I told him what I had in mind. I said, hey, look, I want to, I'm really good at shaping material with, a grinder and Sawzall. And I can kind of sculpt these things. And this is what I have in mind for your door. And it'll be really strong, and it'll reinforce the door. I think if I build the doors the way I'd like to, that you're going to gain on the meter. It's going to be louder if I build the doors this way. And he was like, that sounds great. I didn't have any idea that would be, part of the deal. And I'm like, well, I'm confident. I'm not sure. And I want to know, and this is the easiest way to find out. You're already loud as hell. And we build these super strong doors. We're going to find out. And then I started, designing the door, and I had played around with, grinding and shaping the plywood, exposing the laminate layers, with a couple of projects that I was working on. That those parts of the box that I was working on were buried, like they weren't a visible piece. I was doing this Mercedes with a big SQ install, and I needed to shape the bottom corners of the box in a way that they kind of fit into these, radius round corners of the, rear. Well, there wasn't a seat there, but like, right. The behind the seats. This is like a 2-door, 2-seat Mercedes. Anyway, so when I was doing that, I kind of had cut the corner with the Sawzall and was shaping, and I kind of got the grinder, and I was like, look at the way that looks. I remember showing, Kyle and Chang, my technicians that were working for me, like, look how cool this looks, man. I want to do something with this, So when I was working on Ray's doors, I started shaping it. And the plan was almost immediately, as soon as I was grinding it, I kind of figured out this might be the way to go. But our plan was I was going to shape them that way. And if we didn't like it, or if we had to add a bunch of Bondo or something to make it work right, we would then spray them with bed liner.
Okay.
And that was the plan. But
keep in mind the exterior of his car was all bed liner already, so it would have matched the exterior if you were to have done that.
Oh well,
right?
Yeah, all the trim that he done. That he had done with the bed liner.
So it wasn't like bed liner was just going to be I'm hiding stuff. It actually kept with the theme of the vehicle.
Yeah, so. We ended up some of the components in Ray's truck are sprayed with bed liner currently. His A-pillars and a few other pieces are bed liner anyway. So, so I started grinding on the doors, and they were looking pretty good. And I had done like major shaping, and I kind of shaped them to just pass like 80 grit. And mind you, it was like 104, 106, 107 degrees outside in Sacramento when I was working on these doors.
Yeah.
And And in the back area of my shop, especially back then, it was kind of a trapped little area, and the air tank would generates a shitload of heat. So it'd be like 115 degrees in the back of my shop. And I'm pretty good for that. But my man Kyle and Chang, those guys, they took those things from like 80 or 120 and they would sand them all the way to 400 grit for me. And we were just sweating. We were chugging so much water. It was like, you know, I'm a lot better now. Like my skill set of shaping with a grinder went from like, I'm pretty good at this, I'm going to figure it out. And then I did those doors, and then it was much, much better. And then even now, you know, here we are years later, and we've done a bunch of things of this nature. Now we're really good at it. So I get it done a lot faster. When I was working on those doors for Ray, it'd be like, and I'd do another little part, and I'm doing one door and then the other door. And I had to make sure that they matched. That was probably one of the biggest challenges. I had one like done real well, and I did the other one like pretty good, and then I put them next to each other and was like, like I'll make this one look like that part and that one look like that part, and the guys just sanded and sanded. We went through so much sandpaper, and it turned out, and they were like really beautiful. And Ray came in and helped me, and we stained them. And first we stained them with it was like golden Chesapeake with a poly, in the stain. And then actually just in the last less than a year, Ray had come down and we sanded them all back, and we stained them with the same classic black stain that we now use on all of our production speaker boxes that we make. So they look really pretty now. They got kind of revamped recently.
So a couple of things real quick on those door panels is I've talked to a lot of people about you. You know, I still promote your shop. I think you are unique in what you do. And so I tell people, when you're going to Bobby Gately's, you're not going to a deck and two shop. You're going to someone who's, in my opinion, is an artist in what he does. What you're going to drop off, and you're going to have an idea that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're going to get back, because it's going to start as that idea, and then however it blossoms, I mean, you really have to let Bobby do his thing, because he is truly an artist in this medium. And that's what I tell people. There was that with those wood things, and like you said, it developed, right? It was an organic thing. It wasn't something you had a full plan for. You didn't go to a set of prints and copy those prints exactly. It was an organic thing that developed, just like any other artist is. The other thing that I thought was phenomenal about those was the fastening system. Want to talk about your fastening system on there? Because I think that was actually another great, huge leap too.
Well, the way that the doors, the way that the panels fasten onto the doors is we just simply used threaded rivet inserts. I think we used 1/4-20s, and I think Ray actually went back and popped them all out after some time and made them larger, even might be using 5/16. Excuse me. Fasteners on that. But to fasten the grill assembly onto the panel, I used a bunch of press magnets, and and I did press grills that were cyanoacrylate glued to that front panel that magnetically stuck on the doors. And I learned that magnet trick from Steve Mead, like 15, 16 years ago. He, Steve's my dude. He called me up and was like, and it was like in the evening, it was like late, it was raining, and we were here at the shop. He's like, what are you doing? You got to come by and check this out. And he had built those big speaker towers for chicken.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'll drive over there. And I had a couple of my buddies with me, and I'm like, is it cool? My buddy's coming. He's like, yeah, it's cool. And we got there. It was pretty late, too. It's like drizzling rain outside. It's freezing cold. He opens up his garage door. He's got those big towers there. And he's standing there, and he's showing me, see all these speakers. And they were sprayed with like a really nice texture paint. They're beautiful. Mm-hmm. And it was like smooth. The speakers are fastened and it's smooth. You don't see anything. And he walks over with this, you think of a home audio speakers, acoustically transparent fabric,
right?
Speaker cover assembly. He walks up and he's like talking. He's not even looking at the thing. And he kind of like waves this thing around in front of the box. and and the thing just sucks itself onto there. And I'm like, what was that? And I'm like, oh, my mind is, I'm like, what did you do? How did you do? And he's like, oh, and I right under here, and there's magnets under the paint and on this, and he's showing me where the magnets are, and I'm like, oh my God. And I mean, this is way back. This is like 04, 05, 06, like way out there. And like I'd never seen anything like it before. And he's like, yeah, it was the first time I'd even heard of these, rare earth magnets. They didn't even call them neodymium then. Yeah, they're this rare earth magnets, and I'm just like, that is the coolest shit I've ever seen. It was super cool. And then, from then I kind of implemented that into several projects that I've done. And now we have like several hundred magnets on deck ready to go for any project that we're working on here. When I'm like, I'm gonna do those magnets, and we just start. I actually have here, I'll show you guys. I have all of these little pieces of material that I figure out exactly what size cutouts. So I have this, and I laser cut this piece of 1/8 inch acrylic, and I figured out exactly what size I want to cut down to the 1,000th of what fits this magnet on the laser. And then I have a piece of Baltic birch plywood, and we did test ones. And like, I think this one was a little tighter than I wanted, or this one was a little tighter than I wanted it to be. And then this stuck real good. The plywood's a little more forgiving. And then here's a high density polyethylene. And then, my favorite, acrylic. And all the way down, and figuring out exactly what size we keep that. That's the deal with the magnets. So, but yeah, so I learned that from Steve Mead, and I applied that on raised doors, and everybody's a big fan of how those work. And there was some challenges. We lost some magnets here or there, and me and Ray and Colt figured out what adhesives work best to adhere to those magnets and to plywood and to acrylic and to it's kind of this game we play around here of how to glue one thing to another. Yeah. And so we're super good at that now. like that's the joke, is like, maybe someday I'll write a book about how to glue one thing to another. just have a whole handbook. So anyway.
No, yeah. So for me personally, the great thing about that is, so Bobby's doing all this gorgeous woodwork, and that's its own thing. I mean, he torches it. You don't just burn the wood.
No, I don't burn it.
And that's all with stain?
That's stain.
Oh, yeah. and then obviously it's whatever the end cut of your plywood is, right? And that's going to give you your deeper, darker colors versus and then you can also double up your stain to make it a little darker here versus there, and that's
I use one and then another. Sometimes leave it, sand it back a little bit in certain spots, or
even oil it and then stain it,
Yeah.
So I do a little woodworking myself, just saying, but not like your stuff. Obviously, I'm not an artist level. I draw a set of plans. I build to the plans. I guarantee what's written down is what ends up on whatever I'm doing. So that's my level. But the thing about it is, you're doing all this. You're doing all this work, and the cool thing is you see no fasteners. That's the awesome part, because everything about it is the look, and now it's going to sound awesome. That you've got nailed pretty well right now, but you're going to have all this awesome work. And like I said, for me, the really cool thing is just there's no fasteners. You don't see the screws. You don't see the little buttons, which is what you do in wood typically, right? So you countersink a screw, and then you put a button on top of it. And especially when you stain it, that button just kind of shines. Especially for someone like me, a carpenter, right? So I do finish work all the time. We use those buttons like crazy, and they always stick out. Anyway, so with that being said, that's awesome. I really like that. Your newest build was the Red Demon or something like that. What was the red one?
The Bloodbath.
There you go, Bloodbath.
So sounds cool.
I know. So
Red Demon sounds good. Now we have to build something called the Red Demon, I guess.
So tell us about that a little bit.
So a good friend of mine, his name is Brian Rogers, and he has a a car audio shop in outside of Houston, Texas, LaPorte, Texas. I don't know how close you are to there, but Texas is so big that
Yeah,
you're like,
south.
I'm 9
That's
hours
south of
away.
me.
It's like, but he's outside of Houston, Texas. It's called Sinister Car Audio, and Brian's a badass installer. He does super good work. He uses lots of our product, and he had been using our enclosures. It was like 2019, and he had like he has several vehicles, so he had like one in every one of his cars, and he bought this Tahoe, and he had a 218 box in it, and he was having a bunch of fun with that thing. And then he reached out to me a few days before Christmas of 2019, and him and I, were messaging back and forth, probably while we were hanging out with family and whatever and BSing. And man, it was like a late night on Christmas Eve, I'm pretty sure. And him and I were talking, and he's like, I want this crazy box and 415s. That I want stack fab and acrylic and lights, and he just was, telling me what he wanted. And I'm like, geez, it's gonna be like a $7,000 or $8,000 box, buddy. I'm like, I'll build it. Like it'd be a lot like what I built for, Amanda Raby. So what we had in mind was something really similar to what I had done for Amanda Raby's Suburban. 6 months before that. You guys might be familiar with that box, the one that had the inverted V2 subs on it, and had the amp and batteries inside with all the crazy wiring that Kyle had done. Anyway, so he's like, okay. And then he was like, man, I want you to build me some doors that are kind of like Ray Pimley's, and we had some ideas regarding that. And then we decided, it's like, maybe we should just have you ship the truck to me. Like it's going to be really, I'd have to find a Tahoe and build the parts for it. And then the Tahoe got shipped here, and it landed here the day the COVID lockdown started, like literally the day. And we talked on the phone a few days later, and he was like, well, you already got the truck in your hands. Maybe we should go all out. Maybe we should do a wall. And I was like, it's probably not a bad idea, and we talked a little bit about doing a C-pillar wall. And like 2 days later, he called me and be like, I don't want to do a C. Let's do a B-pillar wall. Let's go all the way. Like build the shit out of this thing. And, this thing went from, it was going to be a really fancy no-wall box to all of a sudden it's this massive build. And then the truck had a sunroof. And because, John Nolte, my buddy, John had that little Blazer that had the sunroof. And so it was like, well, we can do a sunroof delete, or we can build it in a way that it'll do this. And I showed him the video of what John's truck did. And of course, he's like, I want that. And I'm like, okay, that's going to be more money. And he's like, I'm in. And I was like, and here's the thing about a build like this. There was so many pieces of that thing that I looked at it and went, no matter what, if I charge him this much, I'll definitely make money. And I'm like I can't imagine, like it won't go over this. Here's the set number. Some of those pieces were a terrible idea. There was stuff, me and Colt were in there, and we got Steve Mead laser cutting metal for us. We're climbing around, we're welding shit. We're 5, 6, 8, 12 days into this thing, and into just one piece. And I got Colt in there stack fabbing the primary structure of that enclosure, and he's like got it all in there. The whole thing is assembled with no adhesive, and we map the whole thing out, and we take the whole thing apart and then put it all back together with adhesive. And guess what? Just a little tiny bit of adhesive, and that shit doesn't go back together the same way, man.
Yep.
No. I'm like, man, I knew that would be a little bit of a struggle, but I was not. Like we like removed like layers of 1 inch, out of each side, because the way that. And I'm like, man, are they stuck together? It's like, it looks like it is. He's like, man, there is 3-inch long screws. They're fast. It's tight. We squeeze out everywhere. Nope. We still deleted an inch of material out of each side in that assembly because the way that, but anyway.
I'll tell you right now, the people are always shocked to find out how much paint. I mean, just a simple layer of paint screws up a fit beyond what you can believe. you know.
I believe that for sure. And I haven't like seen a, oh wow, that paint really jacked me, scenario, but
Yeah.
I can believe it right now. And we're talking about, kind of creamy adhesive that's a
Yep.
sealant adhesive that we use when we assemble our boxes.
Hmm.
And it and we learned so much stuff in the process of building that thing. It was like there was so much to learn. I in the process of having that truck, we acquired our CNC machine, and I was teaching myself how to operate it in that time. So there was some of the stuff that we're like, like, I design parts and I cut them and we go and fit them. We're like, shit. But one of the really handy tools that we have is our laser, our simple little 150 watt, CO2 laser. And one of my favorite things to do with it is just cut pieces of cardboard.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'll design a part and I send it to the laser and I grab a piece of cardboard and we fit it up in the vehicle and we're like, nope, and like make some notes on it, go back and make the adjustments in the file, and then you keep doing that until it's just right, and then you can go to the big CNC machine or whatever else you're building.
Yep.
So
Cardboard's
but
way
yeah,
cheaper than wood.
it is, and laser time's a lot cheaper than CNC time and
Yes,
bits
sir.
and everything else, and
Yep.
so yeah.
All right.
But yeah, the bloodbath turned out really good. It's got 6 B2 audio Rage XL 15s. It's got a single great white amplifier. It's like their 16K. It's wired to 1.3 ohms, so the build is very efficient. And he's got what's the Swan 12K running the rear doors on this thing, and it's got 8 B2 mids on each rear door with 4 sky high tweeters on each rear door, and then on the front doors it has 8, so 16 between the 2 front doors, B2 Rage mids on the front doors. Then it's got A pillars with the same speaker configuration as the Green Monster, so it has 4 3-inch mids and 4 of the CDR horn tweeters on each side of the A pillars. So it's like 54 or 56 speakers total, and 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 amplifiers, something like that. 6 amplifiers.
Mhm.
It's a beast, and we could put bigger subs, 4-inch coil motor, subwoofers, and run double the power, and maybe that's a thing we'll do someday. But right now it's super loud and it demos like crazy all day long. We were honored to be able to take that thing out to SEMA and have it in that showcase that Steve Mead, I'm not Steve Mead, I'm sorry, Steve Barber, shitting on him, put together, and he worked his butt off that day and in the weeks ahead of time to put that whole thing together for us. And we got to do the parade with the model with her hair blowing through the sunroof and doing a like mobile hair trick, and crowd going wild, people taking pictures, videos, and so the bloodbath was a lot of fun. And I got to hold on to that thing for it was like 18, 19 months until Brian, from Sinister came and hung out with us for a week and picked it up and finally took it home. So
Okay.
it's out there in Houston, Texas. Go hit up Sinister Car Audio and get a demo in the bloodbath. Brian will be super happy to show it off.
Maybe they'll make it up to Grapevine on April 23rd for the Crossfire event.
That'd be cool.
Yep.
Maybe.
So I'm gonna turn this part over to Jeffrey. So you guys that don't know, as you guys have watched and seen our podcast over the year, so we've been doing this. We always talk about how it's more than just the car audio. Yeah, that's how we connect and that's how we start. But as we grow, we want to know these people that we are meeting at the shows and whatnot. So Gately here and Jeffrey have a little something in common. You want to start with talking about that, Jeff?
Well, just coming on to the podcast. So Doug was telling me, hey, I don't think Bobby knew this, but he didn't know that you were into jiu-jitsu. And I was like, oh man, yeah, I've been doing it for years. And I'm like, looking at Bobby here, and I was like, yeah, I can see maybe a little bit of cauliflower ears right there, and he's probably been doing it for a while. And for those of you that don't know, the cauliflower ear It's kind of like our badge of courage kind of deal with, like, wrestling and combat sports. When you just grind so much your ear just turns inside out. Mine's kind of like that over here. But anyway, so that's always kind of cool to find out that, hey, you got something that you're doing outside of car audio, and other interests, and finding other people that with a similar interest. That's cool. That's cool.
So tell us, Bobby. So where you're at versus where Jeffrey's at in the learning process of jiu-jitsu.
Oh, we're just based on the very brief bit of conversation, we're both probably real close. He's like a 4-stripe purple belt. Is that right?
Right.
And I just got my brown belt, so he's probably not far off getting his brown belt. Yeah, I just got my brown belt like 3-4 months ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've both been training about 10 years. Both of us taking about a year off in the middle of it here or there. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of fun. And so that people understand, just really quick and briefly here, jiu-jitsu is not like, we're not punching air and crap like that. We spar live every day. Now, we're not punching and kicking each other, but we're trying to choke each other and rip each other's arms and legs off.
Oh yeah.
And when somebody does really good and like almost rips your arm off or almost chokes you unconscious, you like go, that was awesome, and you give them a high five and you're like, that was so cool. Teach me how you did that, or how the hell do I get out of that? I knew I screwed up and got into it. How do I prevent, And that's how that works. And it's so super duper fun, it's crazy. Like, your gi, we wear a gi, and they're like really rugged so they don't rip easy. Otherwise we would rip each other's freaking clothes off, which that's what we want to do. No, I'm just kidding. But but they'll be soaked with sweat, with mostly it's yours, but it's also everybody else's you rolled with too. Maybe even somebody you slid over next to and they had a smear mark on the mat. It's an incredible workout, and it's really a lot of fun, and it'll change your life. You'll eat healthier for jiu-jitsu. You'll get a better night's sleep for jiu-jitsu. You won't go drinking because you're going to train the next day and you don't want to smell like a freaking brewery when you're rolling with somebody.
Exactly.
And it's
I think you become more disciplined, and I can kind of see that with your work, so you have that discipline. So for you to transition and bring it on to jiu-jitsu, hey, it goes hand in hand.
It does. Like the days that I know I'm going to train, I make sure I get my ass out of bed nice and early, and I get all my crap together, and I get to the shop, and I work boom, 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 and I'm getting a bunch of stuff done, and I'm talking on the phone with customers, and I'm hammering out all the emails, and thankfully the academy that I train at is right around the corner. It's right down the street. And I mean, it's super duper close, and I'll be, class has already started. They're already doing warm-ups, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I had to go. My buddy calls it brown belt late, and I'm like, sorry. I'm like, and I go run it in and join the last bit of warm-ups, and then we start training. But and then I get back and I get my ass in gear, and I'm like, I took a lot of time off of training jiu-jitsu because I was worried that I wasn't getting enough work done in the day. I worked 7 days a week, 12, 15 hours a day. I'm still doing it. It's just how it is right now. And I love what I do. I love car audio. I love my guys that work for me. I love everything about this, man. And a bunch of these guys that I work with in the car audio world, I've been hanging out with Doug for 20 years, and, but I know that if I go to jiu-jitsu and I'm a little extra beat up and worn out, I come in and I don't do very good job designing anything, and I don't answer every email, and I don't answer every call, and I don't address everything that the guys are working on in production, or the custom boxes, or Colt doing installs, or any of that. If I slack off in any way, I'll be coming down on myself for going to train. Mm-hmm. But when I go and I leave here at 11 o'clock or just before, or sometimes just after, and I'm gone for 2 hours, and I'm over there rolling around the floor with a bunch of dudes getting my ass kicked, I come back and I know I have a responsibility to make sure I'm on top of everything that I do. And I'll, sometimes I'm making a bigger push than I might have otherwise, because I feel like this, the momentum, the energy, the drive, like, oh, I better get all this shit done. And I'd start just dig in and work and work and work and work and push through and find my list that I created and just make sure every little piece is checked off on it as best it can be. And so, part of the discipline of jiu-jitsu is, the long-term care of yourself to make it so that you can do that. And the other part is that the responsibility that you have across the board. Also, like, we're not getting any younger. I'm 47 years old now, and I'm all gray. And, and shit, 20 years ago, I was way fatter and not nearly as strong. And Colt was like this 20-year-old kid, and everything that was heavy, I'd be like, pick that shit up for me. And now, now I'm like, oh, I got my man strength back. I can carry around a dude that's trying to choke me. I can just grab that big heavy thing, or that sub or that whatever, and just get things done. You're in better shape. There's so much about it that helps fucking everything. It's like a total jiu-jitsu sales thing, but I'm telling you, it's the best.
Jose Ramos chimed in real quick, and two things. He said, technically, Bobby can teach with a brown belt, correct? Yeah. But Jeffrey's teaching with the purple belt with multiple stripes. So I'm sure that's a true statement. And Jose says, when you start, you fall for the lapel choke every day for about 6 months.
That's Absolutely. The sneaky one. That's a sneaky one. Like a lot of the white belts get caught with those lapel chokes, and I love those.
And you love those.
Oh yeah.
So those are easy ones to beat up on. All right, so we got about 15 minutes left or so. So let's talk a couple of things real quick. Bobby, so April 30th is going to be. Oh, let's talk first real quick. Before that, let's talk about rings. Jeffrey, I don't know, you got an email, I got an email. What's your ring presentation deal? So talk about that for a quick minute.
Oh, okay. So out in Texas, at last World Finals, we had 2 people receive rings that are from Texas. So it just so happened the rings became available just recently, and Celise, approached me and says, hey, I got these rings and sent to a couple of the Texas guys. Hey, would you be interested in doing like a mini presentation, for these guys? And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. So going to be at this Saturday, we're going to do you'll say a mini presentation to some of the winners that were there. One of which actually went to the Eastern Finals and the Western Finals, and won both. So
that's right.
He's going to be presented with 3 rings.
Yes, sir.
3 rings. And I got a chance to take a look at them. It was a really nice. Well, I'll just leave that for a surprise for the gentleman. But they're really nice. And if you want to see a presentation, hey, come check out the show on Saturday.
And if so, for like guys from the West Coast or somewhere back east or whatever, are you going to be videoing it and posting that presentation, or you going to do it live? What's the plan there?
We could do that.
Haven't thought that far into it yet.
The internet's kind of iffy, and
okay. So video it and then post it afterwards.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely do that for sure. I don't want to get with the guys because sometimes they get a little shy and. They don't want it to be about themselves. So I just kind of want to get it all okayed. And, I don't want to go on this full-on presentation with
some pyrotechnics out there.
Stuff like that, and then have them be a little embarrassed about it. So,
yeah.
Maybe we'll just do a little presentation, not that big. But did you get any rings?
So I have not received mine yet, but they are on the way for our show at Autorama. When we break between our brackets from qualifying to brackets, at that point, right before we go to brackets, I'm going to do a presentation. Mine will be fireworks and everything. I'm going to talk about, nice. I mean, we get about 30,000 people that walk through the gate. They got to walk right by us at Autorama. And we make all this noise and all this, so they got to walk right by us. So I'm going to make as big of a spectacle as I possibly can. We're going to be handing out rings there at the Autorama event. That's April 30th in Sacramento. We're doing a 2X event. We're going to make Autorama, and then next year, Autorama will move back to where it's traditionally at, which is Valentine's Day weekend, and we'll go back to that. And the guys from back east, Dan Horner was talking about coming out, Rob Collar, Pop Tart. All those guys were talking about just flying out or driving out or whatever and come to Autorama. That has been an awesome show that traditionally we've got people from New Mexico, Washington, Utah, Minnesota, Colorado, Nevada, Southern California, Mexico, all come to that one event because it usually is the kickoff for DB Drag because it's February. So a lot of the country can't do car stereo that time of year, but luckily in California we can. So we are at this event because of the COVID and all that. It has now moved to April 30th for this year only. We're going to do a single day event. It's going to be a 2X on Saturday, April 30th, and at that event we will be handing out rings. So for the guys that can't make it, I will be in Reno the following weekend, I believe, for a bowling tournament. So I'll be able to bring some rings with you. The details, ask about Autorama. It'll be $60 at the gate. We got to pay Autorama for their fees. That gets you, your car, and a passenger in, plus one entry into your choice of a DB Drag format. Another thing we are planning on doing next year with the Autorama is we are going to add possibly Ray Pimley with his IASCA, I think he does. So we'll add IASCA to the event next year. This year it's just too short of notice, and we have some other things that I'm working on, and I have to take care of some gate, and there's some logistic things that I want to get worked out again this year since it's been 3 years. I did Autorama for 19 straight years. So this will be my 20th year doing Autorama this year, which is really cool. So we'll be doing that. We'll be handing out rings at that event. So there's that. Mr. Gately, Autorama, you have any plans of coming out to Autorama this year? Maybe with some kind of demo vehicle or any of that stuff?
I don't know about a demo vehicle. I'm not really sure. I know I have a few guys with show cars that we did some work on that'll likely be out there. Maybe I can get somebody that I've done a build for to drag their build out here. We are in the middle of a very large scale build on a truck, but it will not be ready by then. And then we are also at the same time rebuilding the Green Monster. We got some pretty cool stuff up our sleeve for that thing that should make it a whole lot of fun. But it again also won't be functional by then. But we may come out and hang out. Maybe we'll even set up a little display of some sort with some fancy stuff and maybe a show car or something to give some demos in,
Okay, that's cool. And I just, I totally spaced on this. Guys came down from Canada the last couple of years for Autorama. Team Mini, Steven and Ray Choi came out and helped judge the event. They brought, what they call their Jimbo. Jimbo came down with them, did a little bit of base racing, top dog. So all that stuff is going to, that's what we're going to grow it to. And for you guys that don't know, Surf City was like an offshoot. They came down, they saw what we were doing with Autorama, and that became a sister show, and we kind of co-produced shows together, and that's how Surf City came to be. So that's awesome, and I really like the way Surf City's gone, and I think that's just phenomenal, and it's awesome for us, and I can't wait to get, the last year we did it, Autorama had 166 entries. How many shows, even World Finals, can you say it had 166 entries? Autorama will be at Cal Expo. That's in downtown-ish Sacramento, right next to the river. It takes up like a full, huge city block. There will be all kinds of things. We've had, they usually have a car show for like high-end customs at that event. That's like Chip Foose has been there. Who's the guy that did the Batman cars? He was out there a couple of years. Ray, no, it's anyway. The guy who built the Batman cars was out there. We had the other hot rod shows. Graveyard Cars has been out there. Gas Monkeys has been out there for the event. So I mean, it's usually a really cool event. Barris, is that what his name is? Barris. Um, Anyway, so you guys are going to go to the gate on the back side. I will have drawings up online for where you're going to enter. Key thing about Autorama. And next week, we are going to have the promoter, John Buck. He's going to be on here next week talking about Autorama. Key thing is, at 10 o'clock, the police lock the gate. And so,
Yeah, okay.
it is locked. There is no entry. There is no nothing. And if you want to come through the front gate, it's $18 plus $10 to park. So you're paying $28 to park your car and walk through. A lot of guys like to pay the $60 and they park right in with the show. Even if they don't compete, they park right in with the show and they walk around and do their thing. But it gets you, the driver, the car, and the passenger in for that $60. So that's all the information I have currently about Autorama. Till next week, we will talk about it then in a little more detail.
Is it a 2-day? It's a 2-day event.
No,
right?
it's only a 1 day this year.
Just 1 day?
Normally, it's a
1 day.
2-day event,
Right.
but this year it's only going to be 1 day just because of the short notice. One of the cool things is Autorama has a tradition. As soon as we're done with it, I'm going to call Christian Jensen, let him know, and he will start 300 days to next Autorama, and he always starts that, and he runs that
Yeah,
thing,
cool.
and it becomes a big deal. So definitely really cool, and like I said, that Autorama is awesome. I'm really excited to have it back and start promoting it and doing awesome stuff with this. Mr. Gately, quickly, we're about 5-6 minutes left in this roughly. Tell us about where your products, where they're going to purchase your products, what are your products, and how they can view them, maybe some YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
We got a little bit of stuff on YouTube if you just search Gately Audio. Not a whole lot though. You probably find more of our stuff if you watch Steve Mead videos as far as YouTube is concerned. But finding our products, if you go to skyhighcaraudio.com and gatelyaudio.com, there's all of our products available. We manufacture subwoofers. We have 6.5s, 8s, and now 12-inch subwoofers. All three of those size woofers are available in our Alpha and our Relentless series. And then all of our sub enclosures, as far as standard, sub boxes, single, double, rectangular shaped boxes fit in like the trunk of a car or a hatchback or something. And then also our perfect fit truck enclosures that fit perfectly in behind the seat or under the seat of an extra cab or a standard cab or whatever version of a pickup truck you have. And most of those enclosures fit and perform extremely well with our subwoofers that we developed specifically to work in those enclosures. So that's where you can find us, gatelyaudio.com, Sky High Car Audio. I believe Steve Mead has our products on his WCC Car Audio website as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Jeffrey, tell us about your show this weekend.
Grapevine, Texas, Crossfire Car Audio headquarters. We're doing a DB drag racing event. We got all the formats available for you guys to check out. DB drag racing, base race, cyclone, top dog. We got freestyle. I know a lot of the T.W.I.C.A guys like doing the freestyle because it's a similar format.
Right.
Starts at 12 p.m. Also, Roger always likes to bring free food. I think last event he was actually on the grill making the food for everybody, and it was all free drinks. So, hopefully we'll see that again, unless he just like buys pizza or something like that.
Yep.
But
and always winning Roger's money.
Win Roger's money. Yeah, he always likes to kick down. Like he'll see something like a full bracket, and it's like, you know what, I'm gonna give $100 to the winner of that bracket, and it's not just limited just to one class. If we get 39 base race filled up, he'll be willing to pay some money for that too. So just be out there, and hey, you might leave with $100 bill.
That's awesome. All right, and for me, I'm busy building trophies for the Autorama event. We're gonna do race flag trophies for that one, so they're gonna be a lot different than most of our other trophies that we've done. So the totally different, similar style, but much different components. Part of that being the supply chain issue, and the others, hey, you know what? Sometimes I just want to change it up a little bit. So we are going to be doing that. Remember, $5 of every first entry is going to go towards the West Coast finale, which we got to work that out. We're still trying to work out some details with Nyman's trying to do his best to continue shows at his shop. But if the Nyman thing isn't going to work out, I've already talked to Lunsford Customs. They're willing to continue to host events there, and we'll do the night shows just like we were doing over at Nyman's. So we may be moving that event over to Lunsford's, but I definitely prefer Nyman's because of the history. We've been going to Nyman's and doing night shows at Nyman's for a long time, and he has a absolutely phenomenal location. We don't ever have any problems with cops or anybody else, and he's got access to trash cans and and restrooms and all that. So all that stuff is what I got coming up. We got our Reno shows kind of set up. Sky High Barbecue, or is that in May? I think that's in May. So Sky High Barbecue is going to come up in May. Bobby, you going to be out there?
Yes, absolutely. We'll be debuting the F450 that we're working on. We're going to have a big crazy bill at 12 12s in a blow through.
I think that's May 15th, right? May 14th, yep. 15th?
Yes, okay. Sir.
Yeah, I'm bowling a professional event that weekend. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. See how I do against the big boys. So,
same weekend?
That same weekend, yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he hasn't got back to me about doing the show there. So, my life is fairly hectic. And, I can't just schedule things on a whim. It's very difficult for me to do that. So, with that being said, I will be bowling a tournament that weekend. But, hey, you guys that are going to do the Sky High thing, go out there, have a great time. Maybe sit back and have a good time at Sky High. He provides you guys with food. There's tons of demos to do. Ray Pimley may even have a Iasca event afterwards. He was looking for a location. We're going to do our four events in Reno this year. We're going to have 4 to 7 events up in Sacramento. And then we'll have the 4 events down in Jay's Alarms, and that's what we got booked currently. That doesn't mean that's all our events going to be. So anyway, if you guys would if you could please help us out by liking and sharing. If you feel that we are giving you guys appropriate entertainment and we're giving something that's helpful to you guys and meeting with some of these people, like I said, Gately, Bobby's an awesome guy. You get a chance to talk to him. He's a little out there. I mean, he's definitely an artist, and take it for what that is. I mean, he loves the Star Wars stuff, right? So if you come visit Bobby, bring him something Star Wars. He won't turn you away for that, right?
And if you don't, he'll choke you out. So.
That's right.
Yes, right.
But yeah, bring a mat. Yeah, yeah. You don't bring Star Wars, bring a mat. But part of those disciplines makes Bobby who he is, and like I like to say on this show and whatnot, we aren't just interested in what you do or how you're a part of Car Audio. We're interested in the whole person. The whole person's important, Jeffrey's an actor. Jeffrey does jiu-jitsu. Jeffrey does Car Audio, and he's a judge, and he also works at a plant, right? So we're all complete people, right? And so keep that in mind. One thing talking with Bobby is I've seen him get frustrated, but he is, I would say, a patient guy. He understands that sometimes people are not having good days. and his attitude shows. And I think that's some of the training you get through like jiu-jitsu and some of those other disciplines. Jeffrey too, you know, Jeffrey's super level-headed as a judge. You won't see him explode about somebody's response. You step away.
I think
Goes,
you
hey,
kind of have
yeah.
to be that way, even with like in jujitsu. If you just blow up like that, man, somebody's gonna be there, right behind you to,
Yep.
you know, tap you out and put you to sleep. So hey, and I've been put to sleep before, so well, I mean, it's pretty fun sometimes, but
That was, you played the choking game, not on purpose.
yeah, and
No,
you
on
know, like,
purpose.
hey, have you ever been put to sleep there, Bobby?
No, I've never.
No?
I've been close. I
Oh,
fight,
man.
and I have a strong ass neck, man. It's
Oh,
hard to
there
choke
you
me.
go.
It has to be tight, and I have fought out of some chokes and like
Mhm.
tapped after and been like, I should have tapped because I'm like,
Yeah.
so yeah. I've
I
had a
think
couple of
everybody
sore- I've
should
never-
at least once. Everyone should at least once get put to sleep. You know, first time that happened to me, it was in a triangle choke, and you know, I thought I was cool, I was good. Next thing you know, I'm on my back. You know, I'm like stars are just coming, and you know, I actually had a dream when I was in that when I was put to sleep, and I dreamt I was like in Disneyland. I had all this like air, you know, wind blowing through my hair, but it was just one of the guys waving his gi top at me, waiting for me to come to. But you know, it's one of the cool things. So that's, you know, like you're saying, Doug, you know, you can't just be that guy that flies off the handle, because
Yep.
you know, one of these days, you know, it's just gonna come and bite you in the end, and
Yep.
you know, you got to stay disciplined.
Yep.
Be level-headed.
Yep. And like I said, these are great guys. If you guys need something done, remember Bobby's an artist. When you're going to his shop, you're not paying for the equipment and the materials that you're buying. That's not what you're buying when you go to his shop. His shop's very specialized. It's you are paying for the hours and months and years it took him to learn the craft that he's doing. It may only take him 45 minutes, an hour and a half to build that little pod, but he built that in 45 minutes because of the last 10 years of failing on those pods and spending 3 hours and 10 hours and 12 hours trying to make it right. This stuff doesn't just magically happen. So remember that when you go to some of your local car shops. You know, if you're going to a shop for a deck and two, yeah, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for a deck and two. If you're paying for a custom install, or you're paying for someone's expertise, remember that you aren't just paying for that time. You're paying for the years of experience behind that time. So that's your auto mechanic, that's your car audio installer, that's, you know, all these people that are involved in your life. You're paying for their learning time too. So, you know, be thankful for those people that can do that stuff for you and can produce a product that you're happy to purchase. If that price isn't right for you, then they're not the right person to be buying it from. And it won't hurt Bobby's feelings at all if you went up to him and just said, hey, you know, that's too expensive for me, I can't do it. Doesn't hurt Bobby's feelings at all. You know, he understands, but in the end of the day, you are paying for the experience and the life and learning curve that Bobby did get on that deal. So
yeah, I can build those damn things, but I can't buy one of my own either. So I get it. It's a lot. I'm like, it's a lot of money. I'm sorry. You spend $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to build a truck that it's going to ruin itself in a year, and then you're going to have to fix it all again and again. And
yes, sir. So, all right, guys. Once again, I'd like to thank you guys for coming. Check out right below us, below me, below Jeffrey. We have spots there. If we want to get some sponsors, we're willing to take on some sponsors. We can put together that for you guys. If you guys just want to throw some tips to the host, you can get us at SonicFX and $SonicFX if that's what you guys want to do. We have that also in the description of the show. But once again, Jeffrey will be there 23rd. We'll most likely see Bobby or some of his guys out at Autorama. And if you guys have any questions or something you want to know, hit up Bobby Gately on GatelyAudio.com. I'm sure there's an email on there, probably a phone number. Call his shop and see if he can't do what you need to get done, especially if it's a specialized thing. Remember, he's got a CNC and the laser cutter, so he can probably custom build something for you guys. Absolutely. If you're interested in having door pods with magnets so you don't see the fasteners, Gately's got, like I said, once again, he spent countless hours and time. I mean, he showed you the jigs that he's made and tested and all the different glues. So remember, you're not just paying for the hour and a half or whatever it is that takes them to put that together.
Just hit a button and an hour and a half later you got a door panel.
Yeah.
Piece of cake.
So, but anyway, guys, hey, thanks for being here today. Thank you for guys watching and tuning in. We appreciate you guys. Catch us next week, Monday nights at 5:30 p.m. California time, the only time that really matters. And hopefully we will see you guys again next week. See you later.
Whoa, whoa.